my name is Cheryl Erickson, and I'm the Indigenous focused ECE instructor with Louis Riel Vocational College. Today in Developing ECE Curriculum, we're going to look at Chapter 2 and the players involved in program planning. But before we get started, just a reminder to read Chapter 2 of your textbook, as this video is not a replacement to your chapter readings. So in Chapter 1, we discussed the reflection part of program planning. And here's a quote from John Dewey regarding reflection. And so he quotes that experiences, in order to be educative, must lead out in an expanding world of subject matter of facts or information and ideas. The condition is satisfied only as the educator views teaching and learning as a continuous process of reconstruction of experiences. And so we're always going to want to reflect back again on those experiences after we've implemented some type of activity or program, and look at how, that experience played out. Was it beneficial to the child or to the children involved? What we could do next time to make it more effective. How do we change it? How do we adapt it to meet the needs of all children? So any type of delivery of program to children should always have some type of reflective practice that helps us as ECEs make that experience more beneficial, more enjoyable. We're learning in this process as well as the children are learning as well. But we want to make sure that that anything that we're implementing to the children or any programming that we're doing is best meeting their needs, is fun, is interactive, helping them think, and enjoyable. So just keep that in mind. Reflection is a big part of the early learning programming practice. So who are the players involved in any type of curriculum involved in a childcare program? And those players would be the children, the families, as well as ECE professionals. And so we are a triad of players, all working together. The primary focus in this triad is going to be the children, and how we are best providing an abundance of rich, wonderful experiences to them, that they're learning, that they're growing, that they're having fun, they're developing to their best potential is what we want to see. We need to collaborate with our coworkers. Those collaborations and how we're adapting our program, or just working together, networking, helps us see different sides of our program, perhaps see things that we haven't noticed. It's also a good practice where you're sharing information from workshops that you're learning, that's going to, again, best meet the needs of your program and children. So there's a lot you're going to gain about getting together and connecting with your coworkers, and it's all for the best of your program practices, as well as the families. Children, we learn about children just by interacting with them and getting to know their families. The families are the best teachers for us to help us learn about the children, learn where they are developmentally. We learn about family practices, social structures, family dynamics is all a big part of that. So that really helps us to get to know and understand those children, and why maybe they're doing the things that they're doing, where they are developmentally, and that helps us best program plan for them. So that's a really important practice, meeting with the families as well. So again, the players, all work together for the best of the child. Everybody wants to see a rich program that children are learning and growing. Social acceptance is a really big part of this process as well, and children are learning what their roles are in that social process. They're developing friendships. And that's kind of helps us too, because we as ECEs are working, we are very social with the children, with their families, with our coworkers. Developing that team approach really helps us to work effectively with families. So it's a really important part of the development of our program, working with the children. Our landscape is complex. There's different, a lot of different factors involved in how we implement our program and our curriculum. Not only the education system and what our goals, what that framework is about, but what public investment is involved in that. Funding, what families want to see their children learning and growing, best preparing them for kindergarten, for the next the next step in their education process. There's a lot involved with that, and again, that all goes back to us as ECEs and the approaches we're using to implement our program with the children. So we want to make sure that it is a successful process. The three key players, again, the family, the children, and the early learning professionals. Children learn best when their well-being is honored and connected to the well-being of families and early learning professionals. So again, that's developing those relationships, and children learn best in environments where they feel safe, secure, and comfortable. As well as in an environment that promotes, it promotes their well-being, making them feel good about themselves, making them feel respected. So we want to really make sure those approaches are utilized, that we're listening to the children, that we're responding to them appropriately, because that's going to make them feel really good about themselves. And again, going back to those, the questioning, all those things that we've talked about that fall under the umbrella of high quality care. So what is high quality care? And that's the program that's rich in emergent curriculum based on things that children are interested in, an abundance of learning materials, whether it's toys, equipment, making sure that the families are included and are a part of that learning experience. And how do we go about doing that? What types of involvement should families have? Do we ask for volunteers? Do we encourage an abundance of family interactions and opportunities through lunches, through picnics or barbecues or just get-togethers, workshops, so things that we could teach families as well. So really making it a great triad, and that we're all connected and we're all working together. So the ultimate understanding of United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child has been a huge factor, and we want to ensure that we are great advocates for children and for their rights. And children, one of the most important rights is that they should be, respected. They have the right to nurturing, to love, to quality care. And we want to make that commitment as ECE professionals to those rights of the children in their learning and growing. We should be a child-focused program, so focusing all the time on the children and the needs of the children is a really important aspect of our program. And so, again, we want to ensure that our environment is an environment that children are able to play in, because we believe that children learn best through play. So providing an abundance of opportunities for children to have uninterrupted free play is really important. We know that children construct their own learning, and so new experiences are the best experiences for children, because they have the more opportunities to really interact, experiment, ask questions, look at whatever that they are playing with, whether it's toys or materials, to look at all aspects of that. And there's a lot of new information that comes out of that. And so they're going to want to go back to those that experience to further their knowledge. So we want to really offer a lot of rich experiences for the children. And we want to make sure that what we're doing in our daily programming is meeting those developmental milestones. So again, we're going to look at each child as a unique individual, and we're going to gauge where they are developmentally and help them to achieve those developmental milestones. So when you're planning within your program, whatever it is that you are planning and implementing to the children, you're going to look at the children that are involved in that activity, and you're going to look at where they are developmentally. And so that those activities are going to have to reach, as many as 8 children, up to 8 children that are at different developmental levels. So that can be challenging. You don't want to make it too challenging for somebody young, so that they're going to walk away or not understand or not be engaged at that activity. So you're going to look at a 2-year-old up to a 5-year-old. So keeping it a challenge for an older child, but not too challenging for a younger child. So there's a lot of different adaptations that you're going to have to do in an activity to meet the needs of all the children at each particular stage of development. If you can think back to Yuri Brenner's ecological theories, those theories focus on the community and the different interactions within a community that help shape and develop a child. So when you look at what we're doing in the early learning environment, we're a part of shaping and developing that child in that bioecological system. And so being the early years, we're one of the first systems that the child is interacting in. And so you want to really make sure that that system is a positive system, and that you're really trying to involve as many different individuals within that system that's going to help shape, help foster the child in their learning process. So when you think of a child and where they are developmentally, if you are having or noticing that a child is struggling developmentally, who can be involved in that process to help that child learn and grow. So we're looking at not only early learning and childcare professionals and parents, we're looking at speech and language pathologists, we're looking at developmental specialists. So all those different individuals that are involved with that child really help them to learn and grow and develop, and are really positive interactions within those different layers of the system. How do you define and understand children? A big part of early childhood education and development is learning where children are developmentally and learning how children learn, grow, and are developing. So we focus a little bit on, in this program of ECE, we learn about how children are developing from infancy up to age 12. So really knowing how children develop and knowing that children aren't all developing at the same rate is really important in learning about specific individual needs of children. Learning about their families, doing lots of different observations on children help us to learn about the children as individuals. And we always want to look at each child as a unique individual in their learning and growing process. So how we define and understand children will depend on our knowledge and our life experiences as well. Our educational background, looking at our philosophies, again, these are all key components of that. professionalism, professional development, and wanting to learn a little bit more about children or children with disabilities can be helpful as well when you're looking at individual children or unique individuals as children. Community, including role models and mentors and values, all really are a part of that process of getting to know children. And something that we discussed in our program as well is we really have to get to know ourselves in our culture too before we can really learn about others as well. So we're going to find that we have similarities and differences within our backgrounds, how we've learned and grown up, what our cultures are. And that not only stems from our interactions with our coworkers, but the families we meet in just groups and society. So we really connect with people often because we have things that are similar. How do we connect with people when we don't have things in common? So that's really where you have to get outside of your box, because it's really important to connect with families because it's in the best interest of the children. So we really need to learn about other cultural aspects, or just expand our learning and our knowledge, because again, it's going to contribute to how and why each early learning program is going to be unique, and how we as early learning educators can best meet the needs of the family. Children as learners. So we look at, the different aspects of how children learn. Most of all, children learn through play. They learn through different interactions and opportunities within their environment, how they manipulate, how they look at different materials. Their different stages of development, from just, mouthing toys is how infants learn. They learn through their senses, to when children are getting a little bit older and they move from parallel play to more social dramatic types of play. So those are all important parts of how children's play evolves. They learn through experiences, so hands-on things that they're playing with, toys, equipment, material, even in social situations, they're learning, and those experiences help them with future problem solving as well. So what happens in a play experience for a child entering play and not asking if they can play is a learning opportunity. Maybe if they kind of just bust in and push themselves into a play situation, socially they learn that the children in that play that were there first don't want them to play and will tell them to play. So that's an experience. So now they learn that that's not the right way to enter that play. We guide them as ECEs, and we explain to them what has happened and what they should do the next time. So can I play? So we give them the words, we help them, we guide them through those different situations. So that's a big part of how children learn. And again, what our role is as early childhood educators, helping children and guiding them in different play experiences for better outcomes, because we want them to be successful in that play as well. And even something as simple as, that was an example of a social situation, but how children learn, say, for example, in a water play situation where they have different materials that are sinking and floating. And so you're allowing them opportunities to take different materials, say, from an art area, and put it in the water to experiment to see what might sink and float. That gives them a really good learning opportunity in themselves. So they're looking at, does paper sink and float? It'll float for the first little while until it gets really wet, and then it'll probably sink to the bottom. That's in itself a really good learning experience and problem solving as well. Or, crayons. they will sink to the bottom. Different types of materials or loose parts that they might have might sink, might float. But when you look at the realm of that particular activity, think about how many different materials children can experiment, and what learning outcomes come out of that is really cool. Children as learners, I just kind of mentioned loose parts a few minutes ago, and loose parts are amazing because it's an abundance of different materials that children can interact with in their environment, and it could be anything from paper to seeds, to beans, to napkin rings, to sticks, and children can these materials can be anything. And I always say my thought process about loose parts is I think loose parts is a really great opportunity and should be promoted in the dramatic play. And get rid of all those plastic foods, the plastic fruits and vegetables and plates, and provide children with real life materials. So why can't they use Corelware and glass? And if you get rid of your plastic oranges and apples, because an orange is always going to be an orange and an apple is always going to be an apple. But if you put in sticks and marbles and things like that, it could be anything. They could be your oranges or your apples. It could be your pea soup. It could be your bannock. It could be anything that children want to. It fosters creativity. The other thing I think about too in terms of loose parts is think about a beach that has abundance of different manipulative types of materials. So a beach has sand, it has water, it has sticks, it has shells, it has rocks. All those different types of materials keep children busy for hours. They're manipulating, they're moving those materials, they're adding water, they're building. And it just keeps them busy for hours, and it really gets them thinking about how things work, how materials change when they're mixed and moved around, and really makes them think and problem solve as well when they're moving and manipulating those materials. So it's a really cool opportunity for children to be creative and really promote thinking. And critical thinking skills as well is a wonderful opportunity for children in loose parts play. So that does conclude Chapter 2 and the players. If you have any questions, please do see your instructor. Also, just check in to ensure that you haven't missed any handouts or assignments pertaining to Chapter 2.